What's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back here to the weekend. It is January 6, 2024, about 11:55 a.m. here, California time. Latest activity shows a 3.4 into the South America region. If you look at the overall map out here for the USGS last 24 hours here, does show somewhat neutral, quiet conditions out here, and still remaining quiet out here in Southern California after yesterday seeing a 4.2 earthquake out here in the vicinity of the San Andreas Fault. I, like others, have been wondering what's going on here. Well, I mean, we get it. It's a little light earthquake, but we have not seen any aftershocks. That is a kind of a big deal because at least, in past times we have seen earthquakes of that size and smaller trigger at least quite a few aftershocks following that main quake. So there's still a little uncertainty on if this is a foreshock or not. As I mentioned yesterday, it's pretty important to pay attention here to today and tomorrow. If something is going to happen, it normally happens within a couple days or so. Far as this being a foreshock to something much bigger. Again, it's right. It was right in the area where the San Jacinto Fault Zone kind of joins the plate boundary here, the San Andreas Fault, and that, of course, is the segment of the locked area that has not seen any sufficient large-scale movement in over 300 years. So they're talking about 8.1. Is very capable on the southern branch here of the San Andreas Fault, and that's just a little scary to see a 4.2 pop up like that and nothing else. Not even a 0.1, not even anything. So continue to watch that. We are still seeing some earthquake activity up and down the state here of California, indicating some pressure out here against the plate boundary. 3.5 coming in just over an hour or so ago, north of Clear Lake into the Coast Range here. There's a couple different segments of, I think it may be off the Makama Fault. Here's the Bartlett Springs Fault. There's a couple other smaller segments in here that run there on the North American side of the plate boundary, which sits over here, Pacific side over here, North American, of course, on this side. That earthquake coming in looks like about 5.6 kilometers deep for that 3.5. Also, one earthquake here outside of Arbuckle, 1.9 coming in just within the last half hour or so. Very shallow earthquake. There is a plate boundary or a fault system that runs up here on the west side of the valley. Very old fault system called the Great Valley Thrust Fault. And occasionally we do see some earthquakes out here on the west side of the valley. But this earthquake's kind of out there, it looks like, away from the Coast Range. Not for sure if there's any type of operations going on out here, but it looks like it's underneath this little area of trees. It may just be an indicator of some stress out here for sure. As far as the San Francisco area, got a couple smaller earthquakes there. This morning it looks like 2.1 near the San Francisco Zoo. Just west-northwest of the San Francisco Zoo, that is. This is going to be on the northern segment here of the San Andreas Fault. Further down as well, another 2.2. And that's from today as well. So technically we are seeing, some decent uptick out here across the entire plate boundary. These are not big earthquakes, but it's an obvious sign here of some strain out here against the west coast. Definitely seems to be kicking up here. And let me go back out here and see some movement further south here as well, just off the San Andreas Fault as well, around the Great Bend area. This is a bend in the plate boundary. A lot of strain builds and stresses down here southward. It's outside of the Fraser Park area for a 0.8. And a little bit of movement here just right now. Further up to the northeast, it looks like, outside the Ridgecrest area. So we'll continue to watch this, folks, and see how it plays out. It is a little odd that there was no aftershock activity from that 4-pointer yesterday. We'll continue to watch it and report back on any changes. I do have a seismograph station down there in Southern California called Barrett. That is right here at the top. That's on the live stream, and it sits roughly right around here. So it's a ways off of the San Andreas Fault, but there's no doubt it will pick up earthquakes down there. Texas still seeing quite a bit of earthquake activity out here in the oil fields. The latest at 2.7. Outside of Pecos, Texas, they've been getting hit hard. All last year was pretty significant amount of earthquake activity. This is just the last 30 days here. Almost 500 earthquakes in the last 30 days. These are some oil fields out here. Definitely getting hit rather hard out here. There's some wastewater disposal ponds. You can see them out here in the desert of Texas. All right, let's back out of here. Go check out Yellowstone, where we have been seeing a swarm here since about the 1st of January, off and on. Nothing showing up on the USGS map, but it is the weekend. And let me double check and see what the seismograph stations look like here. Handful of earthquakes here. It looks like around the, well, I take that back. Look at this over here. Now, that definitely looks like earthquake activity. It is showing up pretty fairly nicely here across numerous seismograph stations. Goodness. But let me be sure that is not some type of huge wind event up there, because a lot of times when you got ice and snow blowing around and some big time wind up there, it does make a lot of noise on the seismograph readings. So I just want to remove that doubt there. Here's a wind gust. Rain and thunder. Well, there's snow up there, it looks like. Some snow going on. A little bit of wind up here around the Yellowstone area. Maybe 25 mile per hour gusts or so, but it's hard to say. That's also showing up here across this seismograph station. If it is earthquake activity, it's definitely limited to the area around the Maple Creek area, Madison River. Again, uncertain though on if this is indeed earthquake activity. It definitely looks like it is, but it's a huge clutter of them. If that is the case, we'll check back on that a little bit later throughout the day today. I can't completely rule out that this is some type of wind event, maybe snow and ice blowing around as well up there. So we'll check back on that a little bit later on today. All right, what else we got for the rest of the country? Pretty quiet. And if you look at the rest of the globe out here, rest of the world, it has calmed down a lot, quite a bit, as far as larger scale movement goes. Over the last 24 hours here, looks like the largest earthquake is going to be this 5.6 here in the Carlsberg Ridge, out across the, well, off of the Mid-Indian Basin area. It looks like Mid-Indian Ridge region. A divergent boundary oceanic zone out here. Looks like there's a couple different fracture zones here. That was about 3 o'clock this morning or so. Since then, well, I mean, did see a little bit of activity here in the East Pacific Rise, but for the most part, things are kind of calm right now. Not really seeing any huge uptick, and that it's a good sign to be prepared out here. It could be the calm before the storm, so to speak. Peru area, a little bit of activity from yesterday. Mostly some light to moderate shaking out here for these earthquakes in the 4 range. Puerto Rico Trench area seeing a handful of earthquakes up here again. In the 2 and 3 area, 2 and 3 magnitude. Keep an eye on that, because that's been fairly active in terms of movement here recently. Last 30 days or so will show us the pretty good uptick here across the Puerto Rico Trench. A couple different swarming areas. This one's seen a 5-pointer, so I think they've seen another 5-pointer, 2 5-pointers up here, and a little swarm going on here across the Puerto Rico Trench. This area definitely needs to be watched for some larger movement. Let's see what else. Hawaii, sitting out there in the beautiful Pacific Ocean. Low activity across the Kilauea Summit region today. Pretty shallow, fairly shallow, about a 1 to 2 kilometer depth there for those earthquakes. Let's go check that out real quick and see. I'm going to go to the hazard notification system here from USGS. They are the folks monitoring that volcano there. And as they state in today's latest update, shows that the volcano is currently not erupting. And the same rating, that eruptive activity could occur in the near future with little or no warning. No unusual activity has been noted across the rift zones there for now. SO2 emissions remain low. Let's go check out the tilt meter and see how that's looking today at the Kilauea volcano. Hopefully everyone's enjoying their weekend out here. We just had a little bit of light rain in Northern California. Cold though, it's rather cold. Got some lower snow levels coming in here to California right now, and much colder air coming in over the next couple weeks. So here's the tilt meter of the past 2 days there at Kilauea Summit region. We're on the uptick. In fact, we're way up there. We're taking a really sharp increase here recently in the last, well, since about the 1st of January. Seems like that 7.5, I think, put that 7.5 in Japan may have put the squeeze over this hotspot area and also add strain across the west coast. A lot of times we'll see relief out here, but that earthquake was off of the main plate boundary, at 7.5 in this area right here. So I believe that added strain this direction over here, which indeed does put further strain on the Pacific plate, and also puts further strain here across these plate boundaries. Yes, they are thousands of miles away, but this is kind of a, plate dynamics are fairly simple if you think about it in terms of looking at it like a giant puzzle piece, so to speak. Lots of puzzle pieces moving around, floating around on some molten stuff. And, if you do move one piece of the puzzle, it will affect and adjust not only areas nearby, but potentially thousands of miles away around the other side of the plate boundary. So I think this activity is increasing strain across areas of the Big Island. That's the hotspot area, and the west coast. So we'll continue to watch that. But let me go back here to the Kilauea volcano. That's a pretty strong inflation signal right here in the last few days for sure. It doesn't look like we're taking any downturn. Normally we'll see that inflation last for a few days, and then we'll take a couple days break here of deflation and then ramp it back up. But we've been really ramping it up, and more so since about the 1st of January. So something's going on there. Definitely seeing a lot of inflation across the Kilauea volcano. Let me bring up a image here. This looks like it's a fairly recent image. All right, excuse me. That is not magma. That's a lens flare, it looks like, from the sun shining into the camera lens at that angle. This image here is localized to the camera lens only. This is not actually out on the surface of this volcano. Definitely looks like there's some clouds out there in the mix as well, back in the background. Volcanic gases seeping through the tiniest of the cracks out there, but no visible signs of eruption. But with that inflation taking place, we gotta watch out because it's going up and up and up and up. So we'll definitely keep that volcano there in our updates. Let's see what else we got. Japan, again, this is some aftershock activity from that 7.5 that struck here on the 1st of January. Quite the way to start off the new year, right? Look at the total tally here of some earthquakes around the Japan region, strictly across this area. Looks like we got about 62 earthquakes here, and that includes, of course, the main shaker there, 7.5. which was relatively shallow. Still seeing some aftershock activity. Haven't really noticed any adjustment upstream here across the Japan Trench, though, but we have seen, as I mentioned, some uptick across California recently, and that inflation level rising even further there across the big island of Hawaii. Let's see what else we got. The Atlantic Ocean looks pretty calm, fairly calm here. I know I use that word pretty calm, right? I had a couple of folks ask me, why do you use the word pretty in certain, sentences? And it's just, I don't know. Here in California, we've used it a lot. Like, man, today's a pretty good day, or this burrito's pretty good. It's something that we use. It's been stuck with me my whole life because I've been out here most of my life. There's that movement out in the Indian Ocean area. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything else major to chat about here. Got some clustering going on here across the Indonesia Islands area, but that's typical. Deep movement there into the New Zealand area. Look at that 3.1. Let me go over and check out GeoNet real quick. They are the folks monitoring New Zealand activity. 2.9 yesterday. Let's see, where is that deep earthquake here? Here's a 2.3, well underneath the Taupo supervolcano. 152 kilometers deep there for that earthquake. Yeah, quite a few smaller quakes out here today, it looks like, in the last couple hours. One earthquake way up north along the Kermadec Trench for a 4.9. There's a 3-pointer underneath the Taupo supervolcano. Again, deep, 162 kilometers. I don't think we're seeing anything of any large-scale activity, but, similar to California, they are on a kind of buying time out there. They're definitely on a plate boundary and fault systems that are technically overdue for some large earthquake activity. 2024 could be the year that things really ramp up. We'll have to keep an eye on it. All right, let's go check out the Iceland activity, see if anything else is going on here across the area of Iceland. 46 earthquakes. We're getting a little bit of movement down here across this rift zone, the plate boundary, so that could amplify further conditions up here. And it looks like it has already. These were prior. These were prior to this activity here today, which is in the Grindavik area. Where the latest magma intrusion activity since November it has been taking place. Of course, fissure activity has been hitting right about here where these earthquakes are striking right now, but we're still seeing some earthquake activity south towards Grindavik and then also east here. Let's see what the latest informational statement says on that from the Icelandic Met Office. This update was put out yesterday, so they just kind of chatted about the same thing, about the potential and where they think the activity is going to take place, and that is within that zone of the fissure activity, right up about here. You can see that on the map. That's the December lava flows there. It's starting to make its way down here, but there's still always that possibility here of seeing new fissure activation. Let's go ahead and check out the GPS around the Savartsingi area, which still shows inflation here. This is the up vertical displacement inflation. And, of course, that really ramped up since back in late October, November. And then December 18th or so, we've seen that drop off because of the fissure activity and the relief of pressure. The release of magma from the subsurface up to the surface area did decrease that, that pressure. But now we're back up here. Look at that. And I think we may be a little bit higher right now than that previous level of inflation. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. There was a day or two here, it looks like on the map, that it did spike up fairly high. But we are definitely not on the downturn right now. We're definitely still seeing the inflation activity kick up. So that's another volcano we've got to keep an eye on here. Looks fairly quiet out here. No fissure activity going on. This is a webcam from Iceland that, of course, did show quite a bit of the fountaining and the lava flows last month. But for now, It looks calm. The multi-view out here shows Iceland. Looks rather cold though, but I don't see any signs of eruption activity out there. All right, let's see what else we got. Space weather activity here, real quick from the Solar Ham site. Looks like we're still seeing some proton events coming into the solar polar regions across the north as well. That's been kind of consistent here over the past couple days. A little bit of sea flaring popping up right now on the chart, it looks like. Notice that crackling, so to speak, there with some popcorn type signatures there on the graph. That is, I'm assuming that's coming from our active region, which would be down here. But it looks like this one has popped up a little bit more. Looks a little bit more dynamic. That's going to be 35, 38 here. Let's see if I can get the most recent image of that. So this one's starting to grow a little bit here independently within this core. Noticing quite a bit of different colors there. Still got this area of interest. The source of when was this taken? 1/6. That's recent. Let me go back here. This is the newer sunspot region, or older sunspot region here. The one that was the culprit of the recent X flare activity is here, 35, 36. But it looks like that's splitting into different core sections out here. So we'll continue to watch that. This is directly facing the Earth right now as far as the Earth-Sun plane. This regional sunspot down here looks massive, and it looks advanced, a little bit more advanced and complex than this regional sunspot did back when it was across the eastern limb, excuse me. So we'll definitely keep an eye on this area of interest. That's going to be 3541, 3540. It does look like it wants to spark off some flares. So we'll keep an eye on it. Right now, the status shows 95% chance for a C flare, M flare at 35, X flare around 10% chance or so. But that new sunspot down there is looking like it wants to kick things up. All right, Storm Prediction Center out here. Slight chance for thunderstorms out into the Pacific Northwest, Northern California, with this low pressure and colder air coming in. Florida does have a very small area of a slight risk of severe weather, and that looks like it's mainly due to some wind damage. There is a 2% chance for tornado probability down there. Again, it's across a limited area of Florida, and the following days here. Looks like maybe day 3 we got some type of severe weather event across the south. We'll get into that a little bit later on, though, as we head towards that date. Seismograph stations right now are calm, and I'll check back on that activity there across Yellowstone a little bit later. I'm not for certain if that's earthquake activity or wind and snow and all sorts of stuff going on up there, but we'll check back on it. Have yourself a good Saturday. We'll catch you guys back out here later tonight for a complete update. Take care, folks. Enjoy.